Well, we are at the conclusion of day two of I Matter and So Do You virtual conference. And this is when you say you leave the best for last. This is what we're talking about here with Coach Jamal Valera. Let me tell you something. This man is fire all day long. I've had the pleasure of hearing this man speak. Not only that, I have had the pleasure of also having this man coach me. He will change your life. You will never be the same. I will let this man introduce himself. And just so you know, he's so kind and humble. He rolls in the circle of Lisa Nickel and Les Brown. He's that kind of cool dude. So anyway, and he's a righteous dude on top of that. So Coach Jamal, please introduce yourself. I'm so honored, humbled, and grateful to have you here. And I know you're gonna drop some nuggets. Pew, 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 pew. Coach Jamal, take it away.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you so much for that lovely introduction, Dr. Andrea. It is a pleasure and an honor to be here in front of your tribe, in front of your people. I just want to give you your flowers now for just being able to say, I'm willing to be able to do what's uncomfortable so people can get their transformation. I'm willing to be able to challenge myself. I'm willing to be able to fight through all the things that I have to fight through because my dream is real. And when your dream becomes real, you're able to activate other people's dreams that are dormant. And so I want to acknowledge you. I want to celebrate you because this is the best days and the first days of your life, but it takes some struggle. Without struggle, there can be no progress. And so because you've constantly said yes, even when your fear, your anxiety, inadequacy said, no, you can't do this. It's not going to happen this way. It's going to happen. And all the stuff that goes behind the scenes that didn't show up the right time, it shows up perfectly for the person who's looking for their transformation. So I want to honor you and acknowledge you for putting this all together, all the great minds that have come to collectively to be able to bring this summit to where it is right now. And I just wanted to thank you for trusting me to be able to share with your lovely audience some of the things that I've learned along the way.
Thank you, Coach Jamal. Can I just say one thing? Take notes. Get your conference notebook out. He's at the back of the conference notebook because he's the last presenter today. Take your notes because you're going to be like, what did he say? I'm going to rewind that. I have to hear that again. Coach Jamal, I am muting myself for, well, I'm going to try to mute myself, but I got a little bit of a mouth. So I'm going to try and mute myself, Coach Jamal, and the floor is yours.
Awesome, awesome. So greetings. My name is Jamal Valera, and I am a transformational speaker. I'm a mindset as well as a neuroscience peak performance coach. And specifically, when you say neuroscience, mindset, what does that have to do with anything? And so what I do is I teach people the brain science on how to upgrade their mindset, heart set, and skill set to achieve self-mastery. So some of the things that I work with my clients, and my clients are anywhere ranging from executives to high-achieving entrepreneurs, as well as millennial leaders. And I help them work through finding their own genius, tapping into the next and highest version of themselves, overcoming, going from burnout to breakthrough, also helping them find their emotional intelligence leadership. One of the biggest challenges that I've found many times when it comes with expectations of leadership is we're missing the emotional intelligence piece, the ability to be able to connect with empathy and also be able to make breakthroughs and transformations for so many different people. And so I am excited to be here in front of you and help you shift from your now into your next. So I'm going to talk to you today about the 6 transformational mindsets of optimal living. First, I want to make sure that I'm able to connect with you in a different way of just allowing you to give you about 5 seconds just to take a deep breath. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. You'd be surprised how many times that we focus on all the things that are not going right in our life and we miss moments. And so many times it's being able just to be able to breathe. Breathing often tells me how people often do life. When I ask people, hey, I need you to just take a deep breath from me. You often see people they'll hold it in, or they'll take a light breath. Or some people, they often exhale and inhale like a big kid. And there's a movie called Waiting to Exhale. And what I have found is a lot of people who do not breathe, they internalize. That means they implode to explode. They hold everything in, and their body has to pay the consequences for not learning how to get it out. So a little about myself. I am a transformational speaker. I've had the opportunity to help and inspire at least 1,632 lives. I'm blown away as a mindset and neuroscience peak performance. I've had the opportunity to help executives unlock their genius, their creativity, their innovation, their life's purpose on the next level for 267 souls. I am also humbled to be able to share with you that in 17 years of military experience, I have been tapped on the shoulder to help write one of the programs for the My Navy coaching program. It's called the Neuroscience of Coaching. It is bringing leadership on the next level with emotional intelligence, spiritual intelligence. It's giving you different areas. And that particular module that I'm teaching is going to affect potentially 346,000 lives. All of the people in the military will have access to this particular training. But I want you to understand that it wasn't always that way. You're looking at a man who was fearful. And when I say fearful, I was scared. One of the biggest fears that I've had was speaking in front of people, but also rejection. And for many times in my life, I would constantly be in the cycle of, am I worthy? Am I enough? Am I good enough? And there was a phone call that I got that really shook me to my core. It shook me to my core because it became the paradigm shift that I thought would never happen for me. You know, the idea of being a successful speaker or an entrepreneur or helping other people with breakthroughs. See, I was in a downward spiral of Jamal, you've moved over 21 times before you're 18. What could you possibly give? And surely if God wanted you to be a speaker, he would have definitely picked somebody who was smarter, taller, funnier, more educated, had more degrees. Surely God could have picked somebody better than you. And so my mind and my heart were constantly fighting between each other. My mind saying, you can't do this. And my heart saying, but there's still more to your story. This is not a period there. This is a comma. And so I was constantly fighting because when scarcity steps in, you never see any options. You just see that there's never going to be enough. So the first thing that I heard when someone said, Jamal, you might want to be a speaker, I was like, they're not going to make any money. I don't know anybody who makes money speaking. And what gift do I have that's so special that somebody else would want to listen to me over a period of time? I then began to have this fight internally between myself, when my heart was beginning to say, we are constantly fighting for the microphone. Will anybody hear us and the message that we have to share of hope, of understanding, of endless possibilities? Lastly, what happens is our inner critic. My inner critic always came up with an excuse on why it would not work for me. And because of it, I almost believed it for so many years of my life. I made it my reality. See, your brain has a way of being able to trick you to be able to find evidence of whatever you believe. And so as a result of this particular conflict, I had this phone call. It was, I believe it was November on a winter night or on a winter day. And the cloud, it was cloudy, and I won't forget this because it was my birthday, November 25th. And I got a phone call. And let me rewind. For 5 years, I had this friend that I was telling you about. I said, Jamal, you should be a speaker. And I said, God, please tell this person to leave me alone. You know, when people, I call them destiny investors, is where they're able to see more in you than you're able to see in yourself. And they operate at moments of preparation and purpose, and where destiny meets is called a destiny moment. And so with that destiny moment, she said, Jamal, you should be a speaker. And I said, no, that's not for me. And so for 5 years, she kept on telling me, you should be a speaker. And I finally said, yes, let me get you off my back. And she tells me, for 5 years, I've been telling my family about you. You have a special gift. And I said, what's so special about your family? Why would you tell someone else about me if I would barely tell anybody about myself? And she says, my grandfather is Les Brown. And I was stunned. I was shocked that for 5 years, I was telling my dream no when I secretly wanted to say yes. I just didn't know how to get there. I was overwhelmed because I had one of the greatest speakers, motivational speakers in the world, waiting on my yes. And this is why it's important for you, is because on the other side of your fears, everything that you ever wanted. And you're going to affect many lives because you constantly said yes to the opportunity, yes to the dream, yes to breaking through, yes to doing what's unconventional, yes to becoming a pioneer. You said yes. And so that phone call that shifted the trajectory of my life was from Les Brown. And he says, I hear you're ready to be a speaker. I hear that you're hungry. I hear that you're ready, you've been ready, you're groomed, you're ready to change lives. Let me be one of your first teachers. And so I had the opportunity to be trained and be able to understand what mastery looked like up close, not from a camera screen, but up close and personal, watching him after hours, after days, perfect other people's stories, share with iteration, with verbal highlights, with pregnant pauses. I watched him craft masterfully other people's stories, motivate, be able to take things apart, put it back together, and share it to the audience and transform lives. And that was the moment I said, this is for me. It's possible for me. And so what I learned were three things. I had to, number one, shift my mindset. Because whatever I focus my mind to, that's what I give power to. The good, the bad, and the ugly. Number two, I had to be able to allow my heart to be able to speak over my fears. I had to be able to unpack the heart of all my destiny, my purpose, my dreams, everything that I've pushed down for so many years because life has happened. I began to open it up and I began to write and say, this is my dream. This is my dream. This is my dream. And the last thing I learned was, which was very, very pivotal for me, was understanding that shifting was a skill set. It wasn't that I wasn't good enough. It wasn't that I wasn't smart enough. It wasn't that I didn't have genius. It was the simple fact that they had a skill that they worked on longer than I have. And so what I want to talk to you today is about these different mindsets that shift us from our low level of thinking to our highest level of thinking. And so I'm going to go through a PowerPoint today. And if you have any questions, by all means, I want you to put it in the comment section. But I'm going to show you how the brain works. Because one thing that I learned, they said, why did you consider neuroscience? And I really enjoyed neuroscience because I was always curious about the why. Why do we do what we do? And I didn't want these superficial answers. My analytical side of my brain, my left side of my brain was like, we want to know particularly why. And what I learned is that if you remove all of the labels that you rehearsed, that you've adopted because you were not born with them, you are able to see that you have a genius inside of you. Your brain is a genius machine, but you've been taught that you're average or you're mediocre, or we often acquiesce to mediocrity. So I'm going to share my screen and we're going to get into today's training on shifting your mindset, the 6 mindsets of optimal living. Let's see if it lets me shift. We'll share. Awesome. Once again, my name is Jamal Valera and I'm your speaker. And so we're going to get started. So what is mindset? Mindset is rooted in your experiences, your education, the culture from which you come from, the thoughts of which establish your attitudes and beliefs. These thoughts and beliefs or attitudes lead to our actions. And so when it comes to mindset, there's the principle that says whatsoever a person thinks in their mind, so are they. The person who says they can't and the person that says they can, they are both right. Why do you think that is? It's because the brain is designed to do a couple of things. It's designed to be able to avoid pain. It's designed to be a prediction machine. And usually when it's prediction, it's to be able to say, how am I going to avoid pain and find pleasure? So you have to understand the brain was never designed for you to find fulfillment. It was designed to do a job. So what are the 6 human needs? And I think this is important to be able to identify. There's so many different needs that we have, but I think when you're able to kind of put them in categories, we all find our ways to make these particular needs in different ways, but these 6 are universal. So the first one is certainty. So the assurance that you can avoid pain and gain pleasure. And then there's uncertainty, a variety. So that's where you want that spontaneity in your life. You want to be able to know, can I pay my bills every day? Right? You want to know the basic necessities. Can I make sure that I have food, have a shelter? If you're familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you'll see that there's a pyramid there. And at the very top of that pyramid is self-actualization. But at the very, very bottom is, can I make sure that my needs are met? And so when it comes to business or entrepreneurship or going into that next thing, many times we don't take action simply because we're looking for certainty. If I go into this business venture, is it going to work out for me? If I create a summit, or is everybody going to show up the way that they need to? If I decide to ask for that raise, am I going to get it? And sometimes certainty helps us at our foundation, but sometimes it stops us from being able to move and break into different barriers. Uncertainty, that's where you're looking for the spontaneity. For example, if you were driving to work on the very first day of work, you're paying attention to all the roads, all the signs, but over about 6 months period of time, your brain goes into what is called autopilot. It's an automatic default mode in the brain where you can pretty much know what's going to happen. And so that autopilot comes in with certainty, but if you decide to take a different route, then all of a sudden your alertness comes to a different level simply because your brain is looking for something new. If you say, hey, I've been in this job for 20 years and I hate it, or I've been in this job for 10 years and I hate it, your brain's looking for something new. How do we find significance? The person who's an introvert, they find significance from saying, I don't deal with everybody, I stay in my own, and they value their thoughts. And the extrovert, they find significance as well by connecting with other people. Everyone is looking for significance in some type of way. The person who says, I don't need anybody, okay, they're right in their own mind, but that's how they find their significance. So when it comes to significance, the feelings of unique, important, or special feeling needed. Everyone has a need. I know we have our egos that gets in the way and say, I don't need anybody. But if you're trying to be successful in life, in business, or in corporate settings, you are going to need to be able to rely on other people. There's this one saying that says, if you want to go far, go by yourself. But if you want to go twice as far, bring somebody with you. I'm under the belief system that if I have a level of genius and you have a level of genius, both of our geniuses combined can do some amazing things in the world. And it can save time on how we get there. Love and connection. We are all looking for love and connection, whether it be through a spouse, whether it be significant other, whether it through children, whether it be through many different ways when it comes to connecting with your family. We are all looking for love and connection, and how we get it makes the difference because it is a human need. The fifth one is growth and expansion. The ability to be able to constantly grow, learn new things, adopt new things, emotionally, spiritually, financially, educationally. There is a capacity that we have that says, I need to learn something different. I wanted to learn more. And this is why you're here. It's because growth is a part of your life journey. And you're making it intentional by investing your time here at this particular training. And contribution. So even when it comes to helping other people, you see charities, organizations, being able to, if you ever think that you have a really bad life, I would challenge you, go volunteer at a children's hospital. Go volunteer somewhere where people are very less fortunate or have less than what you have. And I guarantee you, it'll be harder to be able to stay in these cycles of feeling sorry for yourself or being a victim or just losing gratitude. Gratitude triggers the brain in a different way so that you're able to show up for other people. Many times, and when I'm dealing with high achievers, we show up for other people's dreams more than we show up for ourselves. Right? If it means doing a project for someone else, we show up big. But when it comes to being able to show up for ourselves, we pause, we hesitate, we procrastinate. And so contribution is your ability how we meet that need is being able to do something. You may hear it's called empathy, compassion, where someone is hungry and and they're on the side of the street, and then you buy them something to eat. A level of contribution. That is how you're able to feed your spirit and your soul by connecting yourself to something bigger than you. This is why many people are part of many organizations that are nonprofits, because they connect with other people. So the mind versus the brain. So when it comes to the mind, we have different parts of the brain. And I think we don't do a lot of education on it because we like the mind just does whatever it wants to. But the brain it's 3 pounds. It takes up 20% of the energy in your brain. And so with this front part right here is called the prefrontal cortex. It's this blue area. And this is the most advanced part of your brain. And what happens here is this is where it talks about your judgment. It talks about your long range thinking. This is how you're able to break down the most complex thoughts that you have. Some of our smartest people, some of our geniuses, they are able to access their prefrontal cortex consistently and be able to train the brain. So if you want to look at it like this, Your brain is the muscle and your mind is the trainer, right? The mind is the signaler to the brain and the brain is the receiver. The mind is linked to your emotional brain and your prefrontal cortex. So what's so important about this prefrontal cortex? Well, over evolution of thousands and thousands of years, it is actually the most advanced part, but it's different from any other creature in the world. And so what it allows us to be able to say is it allows us to be able to shift different levels of consciousness. And there's another slide that I'm going to get into, but the beauty of the mind is whatever we program it to, it will find. If I tell you to look in the room and I want you to find everybody in the room who doesn't like you, I'm going to give you $50 for everyone who you see that does not like you. I guarantee you in a room of 50 people, you'll find at least 25 people who do not like it. But if I turn around and say, I want you to find, I want you to find at least 50 people. No, I want you to find at least 35 people that love you, that smile and like you in this room. And I'm going to give you $1,000 per person. I guarantee you're going to find 35 people who like you. Why is that? It's because we trigger the stimuli. What the brain is looking for, it will find. If I start doing something simple as 1, 3, 5, your brain has already said 2, 4, 6. The brain is designed to be able to fit in information. So if there's a gap, it will make up information in between so it can finish the loop. So it's important to understand that whatever you train your brain to look for, it will find. If you're looking for a problem, you'll find it. If you're looking for a solution, you'll find that. If you're looking for reasons why you can't be successful, you'll find that. You'll make beautiful excuses for them. And you'll have other people endorse those excuses. I'm telling myself, right? And so when it comes to the brain, understand it is a supercomputer. It has over 70,000 thoughts a day. And if 80% of those 70,000 thoughts are usually negative, what perspective are you really going to see when you're going after what you're trying to go for? So whenever you come up with a brand new idea, remember that certainty piece that we talked about previously? Whenever you come up with a new idea, your brain is automatically going to reject it because it does not know the outcome at the other end. But the more time you spend on that thought, that idea, that training, that invention, that way of doing something differently, the more the brain starts to say, oh, this is possible. This is doable. So the idea of, hey, I want to make 6 figures. At the beginning, if you're only making 50K, the brain's like, that seems too far-fetched. But the more that you keep on understanding mindset, heart set, and skill set, what skill do I need to up-level to be able to get to 6 figures? Then you're able to start that pathway. And then what you call is neural pathways. The more you spend time doing something, the harder, the deeper, and the more impressed those neural pathways are in your brain. And the more that you do not use certain parts when it comes to skill sets, the more it's called a dilution of atrophy. It's pretty much where the brain says, we don't need this anymore. We're no longer going to do it. It's kind of like things that you've done when you were younger that you were very, very familiar on how to do, and then you haven't done it in 10 years. You still have the skill, but it's kind of fuzzy. So the best part of understanding how the brain works is what's called neuroplasticity. And it's pretty much the connection of your nervous system to your brain, to your body, that allows you to be able to figure things out, be able to take on new concepts, be able to learn new things. See, a lion can only be a lion. An elephant can only be an elephant. A whale can only be a whale. They don't have the ability to shift their consciousness to be something different. They are hard locked based on their DNA. And the beauty of being a human being is that you have the constant possibilities to constantly evolve. And the reason why I talked about this is because they say the lion is the king of the jungle. But what I learned was, I said, oh, well, I thought of it from a different perspective. I said, if a lion has the ability to have these jaws that allows him to be able to crush bones, and the elephant has the ability to be this huge animal that is able to consume and break things down, what special gift does the human have over these gargantuan animals? And then I thought about it, and it was the mind. It was the brain. Because whatsoever man thinks in their heart, so are they. They have the ability, we have the ability to create, to build, to reconstruct, and start things over. So when it comes to the conscious mind versus the subconscious mind, you have to understand only 5% of how you function every day is usually based on your conscious mind. And your conscious mind is your willpower, your goals, your analysis, your behavior, your actions is based on your 5 senses. But your subconscious mind is 95% of who you are. And that's broken down into your age group. So from 0 to 5, you remember we talked about kids being able to just take in so much information and be able to learn little languages and things of that nature, is because they are learning the rules to life. And then from 0 to 7, then from 7 to 12, their brain upgrades to a different level. And then when you go through your teenage years, and then you go from 12 to 25, where your brain's supposed to be fully developed. And so it's important that you understand how to be able to challenge what you think you know based on your conscious mind, and then what you already know based on your subconscious mind. So the conscious mind, it contains your thoughts, your memories, your feelings, that helps you get through the day. The subconscious mind is the programming. Those are the patterns that we have. So when it comes to our belief systems, right? I kind of broke it down into the stories that we tell ourselves. The story of, for example, there was a story of two twins, a set of twins that were living in a household, and their father was an alcoholic. And so over a period of time, the two twins watched their father operate a certain way. And one of the twins said, "I'm never going to be like him." And then one of the other twins says, it shows up to be just like his father. And it was so what was the difference? They were living in the same household. They just took two different stories and applied it to their lives. Well, one said, "I'm an alcoholic because my father was an alcoholic." And one says, "I don't drink because my father was an alcoholic." There was another story about two gentlemen who got fired from a job, and they were corporate executives. And one said, "Because I got fired from my job, that means that I'm not as valuable, and I'm never going to be able to make as much money as I've made before." The other executive who got fired turned around and said, "Because I got fired from my job, I now have more time to be able to create the business venture that I've always wanted to." And then he ended up making more money than he's ever made working for an employer. Can I tell you this? Your employer is never going to pay you the same amount of money to live in the same neighborhood as them. And so investing in yourself is so key. And so I want to challenge, what is the stories that you're telling yourself that's holding you back from your next level of genius? That's holding you back from being able to say, what, not just 6 figures in a year, let's do 6 figures in a month. And then when you get in circles with other people and they say, "I'm trying to do 6 figures in a day," right? And what is the difference between that? It's a belief system, it's a mindset, it's a heart set, it's a skill set. It's understanding what is the skill that I need to learn, to adapt and master, so I can be able to have more and have more freedom. You're not chasing money, you're chasing the freedom that money allows you to have. I want you to help you with that, because many times we get stuck and say, "Well, you're chasing money." No, there's freedoms that you are able to have, and more options you're able to have in life, and more solutions when you are not wasting your bandwidth on just trying to make sure you can pay bills till you die. I'm just a firm believer. We weren't put on this earth for that. We were put on this earth to be able to operate at a higher and a better level. And so when we understand those 3 things, then we get to up level. So the stories, what are the stories that you're telling yourself? Right? I'm not smart enough. I'm not good enough. I don't have enough degrees. I don't have the education. Some other people have better options than me. I didn't come from a rich family. One of the coaches that I really admire, she says, "If you don't come from a rich family, let a rich family come out of you," which I thought is so apropos to the mindset, right? The belief system. And so our stories become scripts. The scripts are the words that we say that justify our stories, right? Our lines. So I'm sorry, the scripts is the story is what we believe about ourselves, right? The script becomes what I did and what the other person did that justifies our actions. The lines, it is usually one sentence that you are attached to your story. And then the actors are you and all the participants that happen in this story, and then the action. So I can break it down as your thoughts, they are filtered based on looking for safety. They're looking for certainty. They're looking for the threat. Those words, they convey a drafted script to the mind or the story that we have. And it's called neuro-linguistic programming. When we speak negatively, that's what we find. When we speak positively, that's what we find as well. And there's another slide that I'm going to go deeper into that. Our belief system, the good, bad, are filtered in our conscious as well as our subconscious mind. Our actions, right? How are we taking action in our lives? It first starts with reward. What's the risk? The brain says, what's the risk? And what's the reward? What's the desired outcome? And then so after we do these actions for a period of time, we create habits. And so what happens with the pattern, with the habit, for example, is what's the trigger? What's the emotion? What's the action? If you're ever looking to break down your habits, go through that particular formula. What triggered me to respond this way? What is the emotion that came up as I was having this experience? And what action did I take? So for example, if I'm trying to lose weight and I am having a bad day, and I said, well, let me go eat some comfort food, right? I'm eating comfort food because I want a certain emotion that's different from how I feel. And so my action was I was eating something that was not healthy for me, but my overall goal was that I wanted to lose weight, right? So identifying what is the trigger, what is the emotion, what is the action? And as you write those out, you're able to shift and say, oh, I have the ability to change what I think is just naturally on autopilot. So the first one is scarcity. Scarcity is the mindset that says when you're obsessed with lack of something, it's usually time or money. And this is how you identify where scarcity is having the conversation. It is writing your story. It says you always feel like you're behind. Your bills and other responsibilities are constantly piling up, or you're living just above having enough, right? You're overscheduling yourself. You're saying yes to opportunities that are not right for you because you're afraid another one will not come. Scarcity has robbed more dreams because you felt that you weren't able to, right? You felt that this is the only opportunity, or you've had a great opportunity come by and you missed it, and you've operated from a place of regret ever since. So scarcity is number one when it comes to mindset shifts that you have to identify. Awareness is such a very, very powerful tool. And when you use it to your advantage, you're able to shift in a different level simply because you know that's scarcity talking. That's not me talking, right? When scarcity has the microphone, these are the different functionality. It paralyzes you. It doesn't get you into taking action. It only sees the worst. You only see the desert. You don't see the glass of water that's waiting for you. The second one is the fixed mindset. It's where people believe that the individual traits cannot be changed no matter how much effort they put into it. They believe that intelligence and talent is locked in. So you're born with a certain thing, that's all you can potentially be. They avoid challenges to avoid failure. They ignore feedback from others because when someone gives you positive feedback, you take it all. But if somebody gives you ways to up-level yourself, they must be a hater, right? You are not able to take in criticism. They feel threatened by the success of others, right? So I get a promotion and all of a sudden you have an issue with me because you felt you deserved it, right? They hide their flaws so they will not be judged by others. And if you've ever been judged, you understand it's painful. And the brain is so sensitive that when you rehearse pain in your brain, it also triggers as if you were actually feeling pain in your body. They've done MRI studies, and they said the brain does not know the difference between if you're rehearsing a story, telling a story, or actually in the moment or in actually doing it. So, for example, they did an experiment with the gentleman was he was a skydiver, so he would jump out of airplanes, right? And they wanted to be able to identify this experience. And so they put a machine on his brain to be able to just monitor his brain as he's jumping out of this airplane. And then they told him in a different study to just go into a room and just rehearse what that jump was like. And the same areas in his brain lit up when he was describing it the same way that when he was actually jumping out of the airplane. So when you are in these mindsets, even though it may have happened or a story may have happened, a missed opportunity may have happened in your past, the more you rehearse it, the more that it becomes real and your brain doesn't know the difference. So survival mindset. It happens and it usually stops people from taking action. This is usually where burnout takes place because when you're in survival mode, you're not able to see endless possibilities. You're not able to see the opportunity that's hidden within your obstacle. You're not able to see, you're just trying to get to the next thing. So if you're even in your business, if your goal is just to be able to get to the next thing, and there's no strategy, there's no execution, there's no long range goals. If you're only working for that day versus working to say, this is a goal set, or this is an action that I'm doing that's either quarterly, for my quarterly goal, for my yearly goal, you're just aimlessly being busy instead of being productive. This is where survival mindset comes in. And so you can see here, sometimes it's a result of a trauma or a bad experience, where the brain enters what is called survivor mode. And when you're in survival mode, you turn off for different parts of your brain, which is called your prefrontal cortex. Remember, I talked about the most advanced part of your brain is your prefrontal cortex. When you speak negatively, when you speak operating from a place of stress, overwhelm, you are speaking from this particular place, and you turn off your prefrontal cortex. You turn off the most advanced part of your brain that's designed to help you figure tough situations out. And so what happens here is the cortisol or the adrenaline starts to kick in, depending if you're in a stress state. And so what happens to the body is you lack focus. You're not able to think clearly. You make poor decisions or irrational decisions. You're fatiguing of the body, right? Your reactions are emotional and unusual. You're neglecting your basic needs, right? Hopefully you're brushing your teeth, doing all this stuff, but over a period of time, that begins to weigh in on the body. And so when you're in survival mode, you can see here on this chart that fight, flight, freeze, or appease. And I'm going to tell you, why does this happen? Because the brain, when you're stressed and overwhelmed, it does. Remember, I used some of those other examples. It doesn't know the difference. And so when you're stressed and overwhelmed, it triggers different parts of your nervous system. Remember, I told you neuroscience is the nervous system, and how it responds to stimuli or to what is perceived danger and safe. And so the parasympathetic system, it pretty much says, okay, freeze. And many times we freeze in life. Many times we're at the exact same place for 3 years when we say, you know what, I'm gonna do this in 3 months. I'm gonna do this in a month. And a whole year has gone by. And so what happens when we're in fight, flight, or freeze mode is the brain says, well, I'm in a stress state. So when you're in a stress state, they turn off different parts of your organs, as you can see on the right-hand side, because the blood needs to go to your hands and to your feet. And if it goes from your hands to your feet, then what happens is said, well, all the blood that would go to your brain to make great decisions, it doesn't happen that way. And so when you're in fight or flight, it's pretty much when you're in panic, concern, worry. And these are health issues that show up later on because of this stress, right? But when you're in freeze mode, there's also a level of helplessness, depression, numbness, shame. You shut down, you're hopeless, your preparation for the worst that could happen, you feel trapped. And that's usually identified versus around the words, I can't, right? I can also pushes in different levels where you say, you know what, movement towards or movement away. So these are the different types of fight or flight. I know you probably haven't seen the visual of this, but I'm a visual learner. And so I felt it was important to be able to see how this scale goes ups and downs. So if you're constantly speaking negatively about your business, about your relationships, about becoming successful or becoming a better version of yourself, you are turning off the most advanced part of your brain that allows you to be able to access and figure those things out. Let's see here. All right. How stress affects the mind and the body. So the brain, when you're in a stress state, you have difficulty concentrating, anxiety, depression, irritable moods, mind fog. It's called where that gray matter begins to calcify in the brain, where you're not able to think clearly. Your cardiovascular, so high blood pressure, your increased risk of heart attack and stroke, your joints and your muscles, inflammation, tension, aches and pains, muscle tightness. So when you're stressed, like I said, the brain doesn't know the difference if you're stressed because you're just having a bad day, or someone cut you off in traffic, or if you're actually in danger. So these are all the effects on the body when it comes to health and wellness, that your body's not designed to be able to manage stress for long periods of time. And when you're constantly in a state of stress, these are the different things that are taking place in your body. Your immune system decrease, right? You risk becoming more ill, hair loss, dull, all these different things that we're not consciously aware, because if we just keep things down inside of us and we just push it down, your body is going to say, I am not designed to manage this level of stress. It has to be a healthy way to get rid of it. And so there's healthy ways of managing stress, talking to somebody, exercising, getting in sunlight, making sure you're eating quality meals, making sure you're getting at least 7 hours worth of sleep, right? These are different ways journaling is a very healthy way. Speaking with a therapist, getting out with friends and family, doing things that bring you joy and happiness and fulfillment. These are the negative effects of not being able to manage your stress, and you cannot fix what you don't address. All right. So the growth mindset. The growth mindset means that you can thrive on a challenge. You don't see failure as the way it's described to yourself. It's a springboard for growing forward. And so the beauty of the growth mindset, I chose this particular picture of a rose building in concrete simply because it's a visual understanding of what growth mindset is. I was like, what would make a rose decide to grow in the middle of concrete is that the rose never asked permission to grow. It never asked permission based on its environment, because if you look at the picture, you'll say, based on the environment, based from the zip code that you come from, based on your history, based on the trauma, based on the experiences, based on the pain that you've had in your life, surely you cannot break through and become something better until you realize that I just stopped asking for permission. I stopped allowing my environment to be able to dictate who I had to become, who I can become in this world. And so I saw this picture, and it was very, very inspirational because it's on train tracks and there's rocks. And when you think of where a rose can potentially grow, you would normally think under fertile ground where there's good dirt or sod, and then there's constantly being watered. And I thought this was very, very interesting because when we start to embrace our uniqueness, when we start when we start to embrace our uniqueness, our gifts, our talents, our passions, our genius, our creativity, our innovation, we create a way for us. One of my loving principles is that your gift will make room for you when you learn to honor your gift. And when you master your gift, that gives you the power to negotiate your time, your wealth, your money, your experience. When you learn self-mastery, and many times when it comes to mindset, we often focus on being a jack of many trades, but a master of none. But your level of self-mastery is what separates you from everybody else. When you're a master at what you do, you have the ability to say, this is what my fees are. This is how I'm going to show up in the world. This is how many people I'm going to impact this year. You go from impacting 100 people to 1,000 people, from 1,000 people to 10,000 people, from 10,000 people to 100,000 people, from 100,000 people to 1 million people, from 1 million to 10 million. The limitations let me help you with this. You get to keep 100% of all the limitations you fight for. But your growth mindset, that is where you break through. So the first three that I talked to you about, the scarcity, the fixed, the limiting beliefs, those particular three, right? The scarcity and the fixed mindset, those are your low level natures. You will never be able to see abundance and growth on the highest level if you're only operating from those three things. And if you've been raised in those three elements for most of your life, it's very, very challenging to be able to see endless possibilities. But the stage 4 is where people begin to break through at a different level. This is where you go from being average to being exceptional, because then you realize that it's a skill that you need to be able to learn. It's a heart set, is where you're able to say, my heart says this is what I want to do. This is how I want to show up in the world. And so with this, they embrace challenges. They persist when they feel setbacks. They are on a path to mastery. They learn from criticism versus shying away from it. They find lessons of inspiration and success for others. They are willing to challenge and view setbacks as an opportunity to learn and grow. This is a growth mindset of transformation, right? Passionately curious and a flow state. So Albert Einstein had this quote that says, I have no special talents. I am only passionately curious. He's Austin. When you think of geniuses, if you type in Google and type in genius, you often see Albert Einstein. And I wanted this picture because you see a picture in color where you get to see somebody in a different light. When you're passionately curious, you're open-minded and focused on learning new things in new ways. So whatever you're passionately, for example, I've been in the military for next month will be 18 years. And so I could easily say, I can ride this all the way out and do this for the rest of my life. But I had to be able to say, well, what gives me joy? What gives me peace? What gives me a different sense of purpose? Even though I enjoy serving my country, I knew there was something else for me. And so I started to get curious in personal development. I started to get more curious about what does it take to be able to inspire other people's lives. And what I realized is it was a different decision. It was something that, because many times the brain says, do the safe thing. Do what everybody else is doing. Jamal, you've already set the tone. You can retire at 38 years old, which I plan on doing. But I also wanted to be able to say, how do I inspire other people? How do I give people the courage to be able to operate at a different level? There was a quote that I was reading today, and it says, your passion is waiting for permission so your courage can catch up. I'm gonna say that again. Your passion is looking for permission so your courage can catch up. And so I think it's very, very important that you understand that your passion, they say, follow your passion. I often say follow purpose and follow precision, because just because you're passionate about something does not necessarily mean that is going to be how you make money, but it also will give you a different level of fulfillment. And when I started to master what it means to be on how to coach people, that means I went through trainings. I've been trained by some of the best in the world. Then I built my confidence, but I learned the skill set. And so my passion has now gotten me to a place where I get to coach executives, entrepreneurs, millennial leaders, because I learned that my passion was giving me breadcrumbs to my purpose, if that makes sense. And so it's important to be able to say, what am I passionate about? What sparks something in my spirit and in my soul? What makes my soul speak when I'm doing this? Because what I've also learned, as many hours, I probably put at least over 3,000 hours in coaching and speaking. What I realized, I never see that as time wasted. It's always time invested, right? I'm so passionately curious. And what happens in neuroscience is called, the professor Csikszentmihalyi, he was able to understand that it was called a flow state. And what you may identify a flow state is in sports. If you see Michael Jordan, when he's shooting, when he's in this particular zone, they call it the zone or the hot box, right? When he was playing basketball, there was moments where he could not miss, where he was just locked in. His zone was just, he could not miss. What you saw there was a flow state. And we all have flow states. I don't identify them. It's where you start something, it starts saying, I'm just going to play with this for like 15 to 20 minutes. And then a whole hour has gone by. And you're like, where has time gone? This is what it's called a flow state. So I'm gonna give you the definition of a flow state because we all have them. And what I teach people is how to access these flow states to be able to tap into new levels of creativity, innovation, but also to tap into their genius. These flow states is where you're feeling like under the right conditions that you've become immersed in whatever you're doing. For example, their focus is on that they become so intense that leads to ecstasy. It's this high that you have. It's a sense of clarity. You know exactly what you want and how to do it in the moment, and you get immediate feedback. And so when we talk about those 70,000 thoughts that you have within a day, your brain is just filtering, okay, that's a thought, that's a thought, that's a thought. But when you bring a certain thought and you focus on it more and more and more, the more it begins to expand. It's kind of like your fingerprints. If someone says, hey, I want you to look at your thumb, and the more that you look at it, the more detail that you start to find. So when it comes to these flow states, this is where your creativity, your innovation, this is where that spattle learning, where you're able to put pieces together that from 10 years and 3 years ago, and it starts to make like a perfect puzzle. A flow state gives you the opportunity to be able to slow down your conscious mind and your subconscious mind at the same time. And that's where your genius mode takes place. So ways that you can become more passionately and curious about overcoming obstacles is learn from the challenges that are in front of you, right? Spark that level of curiosity. The next time you face a hurdle, tap into your support systems, find a coach, find a mentor, join a mastermind, read 3 to 5 books every quarter, right? That gives you new information, new knowledge about what you're passionate about. If you're passionate about design, then ingratiate yourself and immerse yourself in what that means. That means if your long range goal is to be able to go to Paris and go and see the fashion areas because you're passionate about this, Start with reading, start with podcasts, start with being around other people who do that. Find a mentor who's in that space, but also give yourself a reward. Many times we don't reach a lot of goals because we create tasks, we don't create any rewards. Be mindful, join a mastermind. There are many masterminds of like-minded people that can support you with your passion of moving forward. And the last one, that was number 5. Number 6 is the abundant mindset. It is a 360-degree experience when it comes to all aspects of life, whether it be your health, your wealth, and your relationships. The core belief that there is more than enough. This is a major breakthrough when it comes to transformational living. That operating from more than enough. When I say more than enough, that there's more than enough clients. You can be a millionaire, I can be a millionaire, and we don't have to fight, and we don't have to compete against each other, right? The more than enough function is a belief system that operates at your core that you repeat, because the world is going to constantly make money off of scarcity and not enough, a fixed mindset, right? But if you understand, abundance operates at a different level, a different channel. I know I'm aging myself. I was born in 1985. So when I was younger, we didn't have remotes. We had channels, right? And we had to turn the knob. And usually the youngest sibling was responsible for turning the channel, right? You had a knob at the top for the big numbers, and you had a knob at the bottom for the smaller numbers. And so I want you to focus on what channel that you're logged into, because whatever frequency that you're turned into, that's all you're going to see. So if your frequency is on abundance, and if you're going to be able to find abundance in everywhere that you go. What does abundance look like in this chapter of your life? When it comes, because it's not only money is just one thing, but when it comes to your health, right? When it comes to your relationships, when it comes to your children, when it comes to your family, when it comes to building strategic partnerships, abundance, this is what they focus on. How am I thinking, right? Am I thinking the big picture versus the small picture? Am I operating from plenty or lack? Am I operating from a place of gratitude or happiness, right? Am I operating from a place of changing, from embracing challenges and change, or am I embracing the challenge and fear? Am I being proactive versus being reactive? Am I learning versus knowing it all, right? Am I being strategic with my actions or just being busy? Abundance is a birthright. And the reason why I talk about these different mindsets is because we've adopted so many different belief systems that no longer serve us, that allows us and pushes us to live beneath our privilege. But when you understand that I wasn't born to be operating from scarcity, I wasn't born to operate from lack. I wasn't born to operate from a limiting belief system. I was born and I was fearfully made to operate from a place of abundance. You can never be a master to what you're a slave to. And so you get to choose your freedom on the next level. And abundance is the major key to be able to say there's more than enough clients for everybody. There's more than enough contracts out there. There's more than enough speaking engagements. Who Oprah speaks to is not necessarily who I'm going to speak to. There are some people that I can reach that Oprah can't reach, right? So you're getting yourself out of that comparison mode that I have to be all of these different things for other people, which is not necessarily the case. And so I wanted to be able to conclude with that particular part, because I want you to understand that these different mindsets are very, very important. And when you're able to identify which mindset is speaking to you, which mindset is holding you back, but also what mindset do you need to embrace in order to become the best version or able to break through that glass ceiling, that is a major game changer. One of the biggest superpowers that you have is awareness. If you ever tried to get somewhere on a GPS, you have to identify where you are right now. And your ability to say, this is where I'm at, you're also able, when you put the coordinates for your destination, you're able to calculate what is it going to cost to get you there, right? What is the belief system that I have to adopt? What is the heart? My heart has always been telling me the truth. I just kept on ignoring it because the brain says, how we going to figure it out? How we going to figure it out? But when you give a chance for your heart to be able to speak and you get clarity there, then you'll say, what is the skill? What is the networking opportunity? What is the partnership that I need to be able to do to get it? Because your dreams are real when you focus on the dream. Your fears become your reality when you focus on lack. That is the challenge there. And so the more that you are willing to upgrade your mindset, believe, what are you telling yourself when you look in the mirror? Who are you allowing to speak into your life? Who are you allowing to be able to say that your dream can't do it? And many times, let me help you out. Your friends and your family, they're only required to be your friends and your family. They are not your ideal client. I'm helping with that because many times when we start going into business, we started going to different things. Well, my family should do A, B, and C. No, they didn't sign up to be your client. They signed up to be your mother, your father, your sister, your cousin. They only sign up for that responsibility. Give yourself some grace if they are not the first ones to clap for you. Because many times strangers see the more in you than your family sees in yourself, simply because they're familiar. They've been around you long enough. And so when you say, I want to become this next best version of myself, tap in and say, you know what? I need to go find my tribe. I need to go find my coach who's going to be able to push me and challenge me, because they know my stuff, but they're not going to challenge me the same way. It's kind of like having your best friend as your accountability partner for some things. They're going to give you they're going to buy into your excuses too, because that's not what we do. So when you have somebody who's unbiased, who's only invested in seeing better for you, they're going to say, let me help you with your blind spot. And I'll leave you with this particular thing. I don't care if you are driving a Bentley, a Maserati, a Toyota, or a Prius. We all have a blind spot. And what a coach is able to do is help you find your blind spot, so your blind spot does not become a liability to your vision, mission, and purpose. And so I want you to focus on some things of, what's the story that I'm telling myself about being successful on the next level? Is it coming from scarcity? Is it coming from lack? Is it coming from a fixed mindset? Where is this coming from? Because when you're able to identify who's speaking, who's writing your story, who has the microphone, then you're able to challenge folks with, okay, what does growth tell me? What does my passionately curious mindset tell me? What does my abundant mindset tell me? And then you're able to up-level. When you're able to identify these 6 particular mindsets, it tells you who's been running your life and what direction it's going. So I want to thank you so much for giving me your time. I want to thank you for being able to stick with me through this training, because when you understand how the brain works, you're able to understand how to be able to unlock your destiny at the next level.
Oh my gosh. Pew, 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 pew. Coach Jamal, let me tell you something. Thank you, sir, because I know that this was just nothing but kindness and pity you have taken on me. So
Oh,
thank
never.
you so much. I'm so excited. Honestly, okay, I just have one question. You know, haven't I been consistent with that? I'm always going to have a question, like no matter I'm always going to have a question. Did you say we're supposed to get 10 hours of sleep? I heard that and I said,
7 at a minimum. 7.
So I thought I
If you
heard.
have kids, you know better. That's not going to happen.
You saw me go, I'm sorry. I just wanted to get some clarification.
So the reason why 7 is very important is because your brain is more active when you're asleep than when you are awake. And so what happens is when you're asleep, the neurotoxins in your body, those are being processed out. And what I've done with some of my clients when it comes to performance is, just before you go to bed, ask yourself a question, right? Or ask many of your inventors, they kept a notepad next to their bed, because they would get those genius ideas that they've been working on the entire day, and they didn't have all the puzzles figured out. And when they would wake up first thing in the morning, they would get a new clue. They would get a new insight. And so many of the inventions that you've seen has happened because people are getting quality sleep. So what happens is when the brain, so we talk about the brain is able to take it, is able to process at a very high level. When it's sleep, it slows down to be able to say, I'm going to take information from your short-term memory to your long-term memory, and then I'm going to put them in different files. And so if you're not getting quality sleep, they never get filed in the proper place. So in the morning, when you're at that theta state where your brain is at its highest peak performance opportunity, it never gets that opportunity to be able to pass on the information the next day. So you don't get it never gets completion. So it's important to get quality sleep, because it helps you push out those neurotoxins in your body, but also it's for that spattle learning. So you're able to get those complex situations that you're like, man, I've been thinking about this for 3 weeks, and on the 4th week, I got a breakthrough. That's the result of getting quality sleep. But if you have 4-year-olds and you have infants, I also recommend the nap, right? The nap is, when I was younger, I fought it, but I did not know it was a blessing from God. So anyway, getting a 45-minute nap actually helps you recharge your battery as if you had an extra 3 hours of energy. So if you are able to say, schedule a nap here and there, trust me, I understand you. Some people working 40, 60 hours a week. Hopefully you say, you know what, I know how to maximize and leverage my time. But naps are very much as important if you know that you can't consistently get sleep. And I have other trainings on how to be able to maximize your performance. But I want to make sure I clarify 10, unless you retire.
I'm telling you, I thought I heard 10. And I was like, make a mental note when it's at the end of the presentation to get clarification. Because, okay, seriously, it was one of those things when you're like,
you were hoping for 10.
I didn't want to stop you, but I was like, I'm sorry, say what? And so, no, I didn't want to stop you. And so, okay. And so, but on a serious note, I have found myself lately, like I cannot sleep past 4 in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because when I wake up, my brain literally starts going, and it's not on purpose. So it's not like I'm like, ooh, let me wake up. And then I would just wake up and I've been just like up since 4. And I'm like, I have like 20 things. I'm already like, okay, we're going to do this. We're going to do this. We're going to do this. Mm-hmm. And so I'm really glad to have learned this, but I'm just like, I'm sleeping less. I used to sleep more, but I sleep less. And it's not and it's not a stressful wake up. Mm-hmm. It's my brain is literally already processing 20 different things. And like, yes. I've caught myself even getting to like 3 in the morning. I was like, nope. I refuse to get out of bed until, like, so, yeah. So
if you look this up, there's like 5 different sleep cycles that people have. So Arcadian sleep cycle. And so I think it's like a bear, the wolf, the owl, and something else. And it will show your peak times for sleep and your peak times for performance. So usually like the early bird person, like, well, not everybody's an early bird person. Sometimes your peak moments are like at noon or at midnight or at night or after 3. And so as long as you can plan for it. So for some people, if you're waking up at 4, I'm assuming you're trying to go to bed by 8 or 9. I know you got kids. So finding ways to make sure that you're able to compensate. So sometimes there may be a nap here, but also preparation. If you know you get up at a certain time, first spend that first 15 minutes with either meditation or where you're able just to kind of allow your thoughts to land, because many times we go automatically into default mode. So when we go to default mode, we start looking at our phone, we start going into action. And so we don't get to plan our day. We don't get to plan on purpose. We're not intentional about how we get to show up in the world. We're reacting to what the world gives us. And so in that first 10 to 15 minutes, do your prayer, do your meditation, do your journal. If you can, do about 15, 20 minutes of cardio because it gets the heart rate where it needs to be. But if you start to listen to yourself, quiet your spirit, when you wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning, that's where you'll probably get most of your downloads for the rest of the day, for the rest of the quarter, for the rest of the year, because we ask questions all the time, but where do we sit still to be able to get a download for the answer?
Okay, Coach Jamal, thank you so much. Janae, do you have any questions? Because I'm telling you, if you just let me talk to Coach Jamal some more, I will probably come up with like 10 more questions. And this man is talking to me on a Saturday afternoon. Janae, do you have any questions? Okay, she doesn't seem to have any questions. Coach Jamal, thank you so much. Everyone, please get in contact. Coach Jamal, once again, how can we get in contact with you? How can we find out more about your services? Because you just blew my mind.
Awesome. So you can find me on all social media under Coach Jamal Valair. V is in Victor, ALLAIR. You can call me the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air if you want. Yeah, like you've been using this for a while. I have. You can find me on my website, CoachJamalValair.com. My service is available. I do speaking, I do keynotes, I do breakout rooms. I'm pretty faceted. I do workshops. But my ideal client are executives, high achieving entrepreneurs, and millennial leaders, and helping them with breaking through burnout, reconnecting with their highest purpose, unlocking their genius, and finding what their genius is for you. Because what I learned was it's not if I'm smart, it's how I'm smart. And so that was a major breakthrough for me, because I thought I needed degrees to be considered smart, when I had to understand that we all are born with a level of genius. It's usually just underappreciated and undermastered.
See what I mean about this? Like, if you just leave me here without come up, Coach Jamal, I want to thank you. I'm holding on to the edge of my desk. I'm making myself stop and say thank you very much. I'm gonna let you escape and enjoy your Saturday afternoon. Listen, this has been amazing. Everyone, get into his box and just find out more about him, because I'm telling you, just a session with him will literally change your perspective. And I can tell you, because I've had him, and he knows. He, oh, look at that, he's laughing because he's like, I got you. And I was like, I got you. I got you.
Did you tell the audience what your belief system was about mindset coaches before we worked together?
I did not. Because you know why? Because they're gonna be like this. I was not a believer at first. That's all I'm gonna say. I was not a believer at first, and you changed my mind on the first. I remember. I was like, "What you gonna tell me?" I remember, like, clearly.
She went from being, what can this, because when she was told that I was coming, it was just, I'm here. And so the mindset was, I'm pretty aptitude. I'm really smart. I have a doctorate degree. I'm really, I'm fine. What can this guy teach me about mindset? And what we learned together, which was beautiful, is because I didn't have to be the expert. I just trusted her and help her find her intuition to find the answers within herself. And when you have that safe space to be able to know you can get it wrong and get it right at the same time, and someone saying, I see the genius on you on the next level, that's what she was able to embrace about herself. And so if I fix your problems, I'm not doing you a service. But if I create a space where you can find your own answers for your own self and be able to build that confidence at the next level, that you have it, that you can figure it out, this is what you birth. You birth summits, you birth leadership symposiums, this is what you create when you have someone who can hold that space. And when you're always the go-to person for everybody else, you're going to need somebody who can hold that space for you. You often see that little commercial where the kids go into mom's closet and they see the cape, and the kids saying, I told you she was a superhero. And where does the superhero go? So she can replenish herself, so she can revive herself, so she can reinvent herself and become the highest, best expression of herself outside of what everybody else knows her for. And so this is the beauty of having a coach. Having someone like Dr. Andrea say, you know what, I see more in you than where you're currently at. Let me get you to that next place. So if you are in need of a leadership training from Dr. Andrea, I definitely endorse her ability, her skill set, and her compassion to be able to help people. Some people are in it for I just want to make my clothes for money. But there is a heart set that she has that is connected to help with other hearts find their purpose on the next level. And so I want to thank you once again for inviting me to speak and to be a part of your tribe. And I want to thank everybody who's watching the replay. If you've got something from the replay, by all means, make sure you send her a message or send me a message like, ooh, this particular nugget was what I needed to hear. And I look forward to connecting with you all in the future. Until then, be blessed.
Oh my gosh, Coach Jamal, pew, 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 pew. Yes, this was amazing. Thank you so much. For those catching the replays, I know you guys wish you were here, but that's okay. Thank you so much for catching the replays. Be blessed and enjoy the rest of your weekend.